Hey friends, it's Nikayla from the podcast Side Hustle Pro. I'm always looking for ways to keep my kids entertained without screens, and the Yoto Mini has been a total lifesaver. My kids are obsessed. Yoto is a screen-free audio player where kids just pop in a card and listen. Hours of stories, music, podcasts, and more, and no screens or ads. With hundreds of options for ages 0 to 12, it's the perfect gift they'll go back to again and again. Check it out at yotoplay.com. YOTOPLAY.com.
Monday Sidekick, the AI agent that knows you and your business, thinks ahead and takes action. Ask it anything, seriously. Monday Sidekick, AI you'll love to use. Start a free trial today on monday.com.
The kettle's boiled, Vic.
Great. Perfect timing. Just a dash of milk for me, please, mate.
Here you go. Shall we get started then?
Have you ever woken up on a Sunday morning and said, I'm never drinking again, and then found yourself waving $50 at a barman by happy hour?
Are you wondering why everyone else can stop at 1 while you head to a dodgy after-party with a weird bloke called Disco Dave? If so, it might be time to take a deeper look at your relationship with your reliable social crutch, alcohol.
On each episode, we'll investigate our own dysfunctional dealings with booze and find out if it's possible to stop this deeply ingrained habit before things get too messy.
Yep, we're going to open up a shame shed of humiliating drinking stories to help you understand why waking up from a booze coma each weekend with a kebab sticking out of your top pocket might actually be negatively impacting your health.
Hamish and I are here to delve into what it's like being sober, an unwanted warts and all look into why giving up those cheeky pints or putting down those mummy wines will make you feel happier, help your anxiety and mental health, and turn you into the most sparkly, authentic version of you.
Won't that mean I become boring though, Vic?
Well, Hamish, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm Victoria Vanstone.
I'm Hamish Adams-Cairns.
And this is Sober Awkward.
So, Vic, tomorrow I become an Australian citizen.
I can't believe it, Hamish. And your accent is still so bad. What are we going to do about that?
Such a strong Aussie accent that I have. You can just hear a subtle twang after 6 years here. You getting that?
I saw someone this morning, they said you were going for your citizenship ceremony tomorrow. And they said, God, I hope he doesn't do that awful Australian accent and make a tit out of himself.
Yeah, I will. I certainly will. I've actually realised this morning that I kind of feel like I've almost become an Australian already.
Right.
Which is I woke up this morning cold, right? Oh, it's cold today.
Yes.
I got Sonny wrapped up in like trackies and sent him off to daycare. I was like duvet pulled up to my chin, doing a bit of editing. Check the temperature, 17 degrees.
Yeah. It's about as cold as it gets here, though,
freezing.
isn't it? I know.
I'm like officially not British anymore when you're freezing at 17 degrees.
We had the fire on last night.
Did you?
Yeah. It's pathetic, isn't it?
Isn't it?
I know.
We can't go back to it because we'll get bullied out. That's the issue.
Are you going to hug everyone and say, "G'day, mate," when you
Good
arrive?
day, mate. Pass me the forks, mate.
Chuck another prawn on the barbie.
Put another bit on the barbie, mate.
Oh God, they're going to think, who is this guy? Let's not stamp his passport.
Yeah.
We don't want him in.
Yeah, I know.
In fact, I might start a petition outside.
Do you want to?
Yeah, don't give him the citizenship. He doesn't deserve it with that bad.
Fake. You don't want him.
He's
Send him home.
Yeah, he's a piece
he
of
comes
shit.
over here, he takes all our jobs.
Yeah.
Send him home.
Send him home on his way.
Over the years of doing this podcast, we have discussed some of the terrible dangers of alcohol in the workplace. We've explored how some industries have a more inherently boozy culture than others, and we've shared a few dodgy drunken texts we might have sent to colleagues after a vodka or 5.
Mm-hmm. But until today, we've never really taken a look into how working away from home can affect your alcohol intake, hey Haim. In Australia, this is something incredibly common, with approximately 100,000 FIFO. I never knew what that was when I first lived here, but it is actually fly in and fly out, FIFO, workers across the country.
Given the amount of mines, particularly in Queensland and Western Australia, thousands of Aussies are paid handsomely to leave their families in order to fly to one of these mines and work a shift of, say, 7 days on, 7 off, or 14 or 21 days before returning home. Of course, this is not specific to just Australia or even to the mining industry. Millions of people across the world have jobs that require them to leave home for extended periods. I've actually found some pretty depressing stats about this one. According to a health department study, FIFO workers drank more alcohol, consuming about 4 drinks in a day, and more often, 3 times a week, than the general population.
They also have significantly higher rates of smoking, risky drinking and obesity compared with other workers, and were less likely to report they were struggling with mental health problems.
These habits could be attributed to the fact that the working patterns of FIFOs has been shown to disrupt sleep, lead to depression and poor mental health, and increase the risk of peptic ulcers, cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes.
FIFO workers also have higher rates, up to 70% more than the national average, of divorce, suicide, substance abuse and HIV infection. That is crazy. Can't believe that. Although travelling for work may sound exciting at first, this can quickly spiral into an increase in your drinking and a breakdown in your relationships at home.
In today's episode, we want to explore why that is. And I'll be talking to a fascinating guest who has first-hand experience of just how dangerous this can get.
Now, Haim, given the fact neither of us has had a proper job between us in the last 100 years,
Very true.
I would assume by that we haven't had to travel much for work either, right?
That's not wrong. I'd actually say the only job that I've ever had to travel with has actually been this podcast.
Yes, and me, I think,
and only
too.
really this year.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 trips for about 3 nights each. Even though we've hardly ever done it, I did feel like those trips felt exactly like I thought they would feel.
Okay, good.
Like they were exciting, they were businessy, it made me feel important, and I had a little freedom back from the family as well. Of course, they were literally like 2 or 3 night trips, so they're not anything in comparison to what FIFO workers, or really most people with normal jobs, have got to do.
Hard jobs, unlike us just going to sit in a room and record a podcast in another city. Yeah.
What was your experience of travelling for work been?
I do agree with you. I think it's recording this podcast is the only time I've ever travelled for work, but that doesn't really compare to working in a mine, does it? Yeah, that's basically what we're saying. I missed the kids when I went and recorded the audio book for my book recently.
Yeah, that was a week.
That was a week away. That was working. Yeah. I did feel big and proper.
Yeah, you were in a hotel.
I was in a hotel.
Businessy.
It felt very businessy. But I missed the kids because I'm used to having 5 people in my bed at some point in the night. Plus a dog. So it's hectic at my house.
I would not miss that. That would be the last thing that I missed.
You'd think that would be the last thing you miss, but actually I like cuddles and being next to my kids. So, yeah, I definitely missed them. I felt bored. I realised I liked the chaos of my noisy house, but I've never been paid for really any job I've ever had. I've never really had any money. So I imagine if you're earning 200 grand a year, working in a mine, for example, and being a FIFO worker, you can cope much better with all these issues that I'm talking about. Like, you're lonely for a reason. You're getting paid to be lonely for 1 month on and 1 month off, if you know what I mean. I think my reasons become very insignificant because I'm not getting paid very much. So therefore, I'm not happy about being away from my kids. Whereas if I was getting a lot of money in the bank at the end of being away, I'd probably feel all right about it.
So if you were lying in bed alone in a hotel room next to a bath full of cash,
yes,
you wouldn't miss your kids.
I wouldn't. There's
Does
a job
that make
there.
you a good parent?
There's a job for me there somewhere, isn't there?
Do you have an opinion of those that travel a lot for work? Like, what do you expect that is like?
Well, I feel sorry for the people at home more than anything else. The work is okay because you're getting paid and you're doing a job and you're busy all the time. I feel sorry for the mums, especially left at home looking after the kids.
Or dads.
Or dads, yeah. I don't really feel sorry for men.
Fair enough.
It's a default feeling. I know some women whose husbands expect a bit of a party when they get back. So I do feel sorry for that as well, because they're still carrying on a routine and taking the kids to school, men or women, of course, and they have a routine in place. And the person that's away then comes back and expects there to be like a holiday every time they come home, and everyone to be happy about it and to stop the routine and be there and do all the things that they want to do. It's like party dad coming back, isn't it? And I think a lot of people that are left at home find that aspect of it really, really hard. I think it must be lonely for both parties, but I hope the cash would make it worthwhile. I wonder if FIFO, flying in and flying out, is something that people can do just short term. I think it's manageable then, it's doable. If it's too much of a strain in a relationship, when people are so far away for so long, you're left dealing with all the responsibilities that come with being at home alone. Yeah, which would be really, really hard.
I think it's hard to step away from it. Like, from speaking to people that have done FIFO, a lot of people in Australia do it straight out of school. It's like 17, 18, and suddenly they're earning 100 grand a year.
Yeah.
And you go, I'll only do it until I get in a serious relationship, or I have a family, or I can afford a house. But then, you've been there 5-10 years, you get to that level and you're like, okay, do I really want to leave?
Yeah.
And now earn half of that money doing a shit job at home? I think people find it really hard.
Yeah, because it is such good money, apparently, isn't
Yeah.
it? I wouldn't mind if John worked away, quite honestly. Just a week here, a week there, but he could take the children with him.
That's the key.
So I'd be at home alone, but he'd have the kids.
So you're okay with your 10, 7 and 5-year-old working in the mines
Yeah.
with John?
Put the kids, that's what you got to do. Put the kids to work in the mines and the parents stay at home. The
That's
kids
nice.
are fly in, fly out. The parents stay at home and deal with the routine.
You're onto something
Yeah.
here.
Kids working in mines, it's the answer.
So just present it as a holiday to them.
Yes. Oh, we're going to go and tap some rocks. Is that what they do in mines, Hamish?
You haven't got a clue. That's it. You basically go there, you tap some rocks, you come back 100 grand richer.
Yeah. What about you?
I would say that I've always wanted a job that has a little bit of travel involved. I'd love to be one of those people sitting in business class on a flight, holding a briefcase, typing away on my laptop, looking important. That's sort of what I imagine it is. I'd love to see the world whilst on the clock. Like leisurely, like booking restaurants and
yes.
cafes, using a business card. Like we have a business card for this podcast, but it doesn't feel as fun as I thought it would because it's literally just our cash going out of it.
Yeah, we just feel scared every time we use it, don't
Exactly.
we? We're like, oh, is that going on the Sober Awkward business
But
card?
like an
Ouch.
actual business card. I'm like, I'll get lunch. Oh, I love that. I'll get
Yeah.
lunch and just using someone else's money.
Oh, yes. If it was the business's business card, yes, that would be very nice.
I've always wanted that. I'd say the difference now is that as a parent, I'd feel quite guilty about leaving Liz at home alone with one or more kids.
Yeah.
It's not as sweet. In your 20s, when you're single and no commitments, you travel the world and get paid great, amazing. Now I'm like, I sort of feel like I should be home. I feel guilty playing football once a week.
Yes.
For like an hour.
Yeah.
If I went away for work for a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
I'd feel bad.
Yeah, me too. I think it's a really difficult one because everyone's got to earn money, and if there's no work in where you live, there's not much work up here for certain jobs. You can't find a lot of work. We found it hard. My husband found it hard. He did 6 different jobs before he started his window cleaning business up here. It's not easy to find work in this it's a regional area of Australia where we live. And people have certain expertise which are useful on their mines. They're not useful around here. So the sacrifice they make is leaving their families for 2 weeks or sometimes a month at a time. It's usually month on, month off, isn't it? Depending on where the oil rig or the mine is.
Actually, having done kids' parties for years, it was often I noticed like the kids whose parents are away a lot, often for work, that were tricky.
Yeah.
I think if you've only got one parent at home, the kid can play up possibly a lot more than they would if they were both around.
And I think there's a lot of guilt involved for the parent that is flying away and for the parent that's here because they just feel like this heaviness of work being prioritising work over their children because they're not there for them. You would miss milestones if you worked abroad or in another town or whatever. You would miss all this important stuff that happens with your kids, like first walk, first talk, first smile, all of that stuff. It would be really depressing not to go through that with your partner.
Well, I wonder if that is at the core of some of the over drinking, which
Definitely.
we'll get to later in the episode.
Totally. How do you think you would have acted if you were someone that worked abroad a lot whilst you were still drinking?
Well, I know I would have lent into the business card.
Yeah.
I would have been at the airport having a few drinks to get the trip off to a kickstart. Then I'd have a couple more on the flight. Then I'd book like a fancy restaurant. And then I'd go to the hotel bar. I really enjoy myself.
You would have drained that card.
Yeah, I would have only done a few trips before they get onto me. Like, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
His trip's costing double what it should do. What the fuck are all these bars coming up? I always assume that those that travel for work earn more, particularly FIFO here. So I don't know if that's actually true. But I assume if you travel for work,
I think it is, yeah.
You assume that you get paid
It's
more.
got to be worthwhile.
And then I would probably think, okay, if I'm earning more whilst on holiday abroad for work, then I would splash the cash a little bit more.
Yes.
Also, although I don't have any experience in working abroad, what I do have experience in, which I think is maybe closely related, is a long distance relationship. So I lived in Paris whilst in a relationship with a girl in London, and I sort of saw all of the good and the bad of that. There's the good of like you miss each other and then it's exciting to see each other, and every time you meet up it's like a honeymoon again. And the bad side is that you sort of miss all of those everyday throwaway moments that make you close to someone you miss.
Yeah.
Just like making a cup of tea together 5 days of the week.
Yeah.
So all of those things you miss out on.
And sex.
Well, I don't have much of that anyway. That really didn't affect my sex life at all, living in a different city. But I do see how that can lead to cheating. I can see if you just don't see each other a lot and you don't have those throwaway moments often enough, and then someone new comes into your life and it seems exciting and it seems comforting, then I can see how, I'm not surprised by the levels of divorce in those that work away from home a lot.
I know we talk about below deck a lot on this podcast,
You do.
but that is working away from home. It's not quite the same as FIFO, but it's young people going off on a boat around the Mediterranean or the Caribbean for a couple of months at a time, and you always see people cheating on that. They've got girlfriends at home that they're phoning all the time, and then they've got another gorgeous girl who's arrived on the boat, and they are easily led, especially after a few drinks. I think that's, again, kind of the main influence here, isn't it? Where things start to go wrong is when alcohol is on the menu.
How do you think you would have gone as a work abroader whilst drinking?
How do you think I would have gone, Hamish?
Drunk, I reckon. Fired.
I would have been unreliable and got sacked. There is no doubt about it. I totally agree with you. I would have gone in with a drinking crew. I would have found out who were the real booze bags there and enjoyed after work beers that would have probably continued through the night. I'd be hungover. I wouldn't go to work, so I'd be completely unreliable in that respect. I wouldn't probably show up. Like, that's as bad as it would be for me. I would probably be unfaithful, as you just said, because I would do stuff that was out of character when under the influence. I would be using machinery when hungover.
Did you want this kind of job at any point?
No, because I couldn't have done it.
Even when you were 18, 19,
I couldn't have worked machinery, for example, or driven a truck or a digger or anything like that.
Not just mines, but generally working abroad. Did you ever crave a job that had travel in it?
Well, the only job that I worked abroad was having bars in Thailand. I guess that is working abroad in some respect, but that was just me trying to find other places to drink and finding work where I could just booze all day and no one would question me. So you can't get away with that. In fact, I think they give you breathalyzers when you go into work on the mines in Australia.
They do now,
Yes, I think they do. Yeah, so no, I would have been absolutely awful. I would be an absolute nightmare for an employer. And I would have flown home before I put risk to myself and others, quite honestly, Hamish.
No, you wouldn't have been that grown up. You wouldn't have flown home before you put everyone at risk. You would have made the mistakes and put everyone at risk.
I would have got the flying doctor out because I'd probably be in some sort of injury situation in hospital.
You'd have less fingers.
I'd have no fingers at all and probably no legs, and I'd end up in hospital and have to be flown home in an emergency because I'd just got so drunk and fallen off a bar or something.
I can't imagine you in a mine, I must say.
I can't either, Hamish.
That's your happy place.
No, it might be now. I might be all right working in a mine now. I'm very reliable now.
You can't mow a lawn.
True. There's other jobs,
or
though.
use a coffee machine.
There's other jobs.
When was the last time you used a tool?
Not for a while.
There's other jobs there.
There's other jobs.
I don't know.
I could do the bins.
You could. Do you do the bins at home?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't know. I could.
You can make the tea.
I could make the tea.
Someone's got to do it.
I could be the tea girl.
I'm not sure if you get paid $100,000 a year to fly.
You never know.
As a tea
I make
maker.
fucking good tea, Hamish.
Now, as much as we'd love to do a whole episode on the potential hypothetical fuck-uppery we would have both gotten up to if we had the work business card or a high-paying job with plenty of travel, it's probably best that we speak to someone who actually knows what they're talking about for once.
Today's guest is Sean Palmer, a man with one of the most extraordinary journeys to sobriety that you're likely to hear. A man that has faced terrible trauma throughout his life and has come through a serious and dangerous drinking habit to become a sobriety coach and founder of Revive Sobriety Coaching.
Part of Sean's story involves his years working as a FIFO here in Australia. But in order to paint the full picture of his tale, I was keen to talk to Sean about the sequence of events that led him to drink heavily from such a young age. Your story appears to have these very clear landmark moments that are almost like butterfly effects for the rest of your life. And from what I can see, that first landmark moment was you leaving Zimbabwe. You were very young. Were you 11 when you left Zimbabwe?
Correct, yeah, 11 years of age.
11 years old with your family. You made to move to Perth, where I know plenty of Zimbabweans did at that time. And the transition of being, an outsider was not easy for you or your family. So I guess, first of all, let's talk about what that was like for you as an 11-year-old, and then we can talk about particularly the effect it had on your dad. So what was that like, as an 11-year-old, joining a new school, sounding a bit different, being new? How did that affect you?
Coming to Australia, and I probably arrived and went to a school in a pretty tough neighbourhood in Perth, and I was exposed to behaviours and probably a different culture than I'd ever seen. So it made me quite anxious. I found it pretty hard to fit in. I spoke differently. I had quite a strong accent in my younger years. It didn't last long. I sort of picked up the Aussie accent after a couple of years, but certainly the first couple of years in my primary school especially, I was bullied, certainly treated, as an outsider, and even looking back, there was a fair bit of racism. People associating me with asking me silly questions like, "Does my mum have a bone through her nose?" and "Dad have a spear?" Those type silly things, but can be quite hurtful when you're a child. So I think in the early ages, it was just trying to fit in. It was probably added to a bit of the anxiety of just arriving in a strange country, trying to make friends, trying to fit in and do all those sort of things, because I spoke differently. As I said, I dressed differently. Even the dress, was vastly different. Wearing long socks to a public school didn't go down too well with most of the boys, and I copped a lot of teasing and probably borderline bullying.
Yeah, school was not an easy place for you, and at home things were beginning to get trickier as well. Tell us about how difficult your dad in particular found that move over.
Yeah, my dad, especially out of the whole family, found it more difficult than anyone. I guess he was entrenched in his life, and very well established, quite well off, and in a senior position in the firm that he was working for in Zimbabwe. So when he came over, Zimbabwe is a very restricted country to immigrate from. The amount of money and assets that you can move through immigration is very, very limited, because they basically try to stop you leaving the country, certainly with any cash or asset. So we immigrated basically just above the poverty line from a very rich, well-off family to come over to Australia, on the bones of our arse, basically. And he struggled with that. He lost his network of friends. We had a boathouse. We used to go skiing on the weekends, and we had a beautiful life. And he left that all behind. And I think, he really struggled with that. He was already a pretty heavy party animal / binge drinker. And, I would say he had a mild disorder with alcohol, or he had a challenging relationship with alcohol in the early years before we immigrated. But certainly that escalated immediately on arrival.
And then with that alcohol, he began to turn violent, which I can't even imagine how difficult that is as a child. Did you blame the alcohol? Did you sort of blame your dad? How do you deal with that as a child?
Well, I never blamed the alcohol, not until now. I'm a bit more wiser and know a bit more about alcohol now, but back then I just blamed my dad. I just thought he turned into an evil person. I didn't understand why he would want to beat up or be violent to his own family, and basically hated him. But I think as soon as we announced immigration and we were waiting to immigrate, that's when the violence started. So it was probably 6 months out from leaving Zimbabwe. And, I remember the last Christmas that we had there, he was quite violent Christmas Eve. So there was a few black eyes, and, he even broke my mum's nose on Christmas Eve. So she looked like a raccoon on Christmas Day in front of the family before we left. Ironically, the first Christmas that we had in Australia, the same thing happened again, very violent Christmas Eve, mainly around financial difficulties and challenges associated with that time of the year and his escalated drinking. But it kind of started just before we left, and certainly it was a rarity when we were in Zimbabwe. When we arrived in Australia, it became quite regular, and then within 6 to 9 months, it was a weekly event.
And were you the target of that? Was it more your mum?
Originally, it was my mother. My dad had a lot of resent for my mother. I think he blamed her for the immigration. And my sister was a chronic epileptic, and that was the main reason why we immigrated, because Australia had some of the best specialists in the world. And my sister was struggling with epilepsy, and we decided, for her benefit, and some of my mum's side of the family had moved over already as well. So we made that choice. But my dad was very resentful, and I think he just blamed my mum for immigration and just couldn't get past that. And, their relationship was pretty toxic for about 5 to 6 years from immigration to about me being about 16 years of age or around that. So, his violence and anger was originally directed towards her, but I took it upon myself to get in the way because, I don't know, it was just an instinct. And I always try to be, I guess, that battering ram to prevent him getting to my mother. And so then that violence quickly turned towards me in most instances. And, naturally, because I probably tried to get in the way every time. But then as soon as my dad started to drink after a while, he used to just target me.
And those toxic years of your parents' relationship coincided with the age when most people start to drink, right? So you're 14, 15 years old is typically when we start. Did you start drinking in a way differently to the way that you saw your friends begin to drink? Were you instantly pushing the limit? Or did you start like anyone or sort of, most people experimenting, having one and then going, this is giving me a headache and I'm doing it because it's rebellious. What were your first experiences like of it?
Well, I despised alcohol as a young man. I saw what it did and, had a fair idea that, I blame my dad directly for the violence and that sort of stuff. I definitely knew alcohol was part of the mix. And I made a promise to myself and my mother, because she actually said to me one day, promise me you'll never drink alcohol. And I promised myself and her. So I was quite reluctant to drink. Arriving in Australia and then finding that network, like I said, probably being attracted to the class clowns, they were starting to experiment with alcohol around that. I'm going to say as early as about 13, late 13s, 14s. So I wasn't the one, they would grab a six-pack and go to a party and probably collapse after 3 or 4 and not even get to the end, where I probably took a while. I would have a sip and pretend that I almost spit it out, hated the taste, knew what it did to, my dad and other people. So I kind of, it took me a while, but with a bit of peer pressure and probably hanging around the wrong crowd, eventually once I did taste it, I found out quickly what it did. And that was temporary relief, escape, and it became a coping mechanism.
And then from a young age, you started working in the hospitality industry, which is a whole other conversation that we could have. We've done podcast episodes on the drinking culture within it, but you were particularly young. You were sort of 16, 17 when you started working as a chef.
I had my 16th birthday and I was already employed in the hotel that I got an apprenticeship with. So I was an apprentice chef, left school very early, didn't even finish year 10 and took an apprenticeship on. And so I was, I think, 15 and 10 months when I joined the hospitality industry in a 5-star hotel. And we had 480 employees in that hotel. So, I was exposed to nightlife and drinking and alcohol in a much wider format than, I guess, my weekend, Friday, sort of Saturday night escapes in my school years.
Well, I guess suddenly it takes a step up, doesn't it? Suddenly you're not drinking with other 15, 16-year-olds, you're drinking with adults. And I imagine, did you get an air of wanting to keep up with them or wanting to impress them by, being able to drink heavily like they could?
Yeah, it didn't take long at all. I was working with predominantly, a lot of mature age chefs, and they certainly were drinking quite frequently, some of them nightly. And, I soon learnt to hold my own pretty quickly. It started off with, 2 or 3 pints. Within my first year of my apprenticeship, I could comfortably drink with most 25, 30-year-olds and still be there at the end. So I was consuming the same as sort of, practiced drinkers that were, drinking 7, 8, 9, 10 pints a night.
Did you have the awareness of going, hang on a minute, I'm on a slippery slope at this stage? Or were you still too young to sort of understand what was going on?
To be honest, I never had the awareness. I knew I had a massive tolerance for alcohol, and it was always, right until I gave up drinking alcohol, I could always drink very quickly and in large volumes, and people used to make comment on that, like, don't drink with Sean, he's an animal, you'll pass out before you even get halfway through the night, or just don't get in around with him because you won't last. There was a lack of awareness of how it was escalating and the effects, because I think it was kind of normalised, because I just looked at everyone else drinking in large volumes, drinking very frequently, and it just felt like it was normal. And even I think in the early days, not so much in the last decade when I was drinking, but certainly in the early days, the more you could drink, the more you could hold, and the quicker you could drink, the bigger badge of honour.
Absolutely.
Especially in the hospitality industry, it was, you're almost a hero if you can hold a lot of liquor and drink everyone under the table.
Hey friends, it's Nikayla from the podcast Side Hustle Pro. I'm always looking for ways to keep my kids entertained without screens, and the Yoto Mini has been a total lifesaver. My kids are obsessed. Yoto is a screen-free audio player where kids just pop in a card and listen. Hours of stories, music, podcasts, and more, and no screens or ads. With hundreds of options for ages 0 to 12, it's the perfect gift they'll go back to again and again. Check it out at yotoplay.com. YOTOPLAY.com.
A lot of supplement brands chase trends, but if you're serious about your health, we know research-backed science is what actually moves the needle. Momentous works with the best brains in human science to create every formula, and every batch is made of pure ingredients, tested for safety, and does not contain fillers. So you get the best long-term results possible. Creatine isn't just for muscle gains, it's essential daily fuel for your brain, body, and long-term performance. Momentous CreaPure Creatine is backed by leading performance experts like Dr. Andrew Huberman and Dr. Stacy Sims. Sourced exclusively in Germany, CreaPure sets the gold standard for creatine, delivering the purest form, creatine monohydrate, that's rigorously washed and never cut with fillers. With over 2,000 5-star reviews, over 112,000 customers have seen the results firsthand. With Momentous, the fundamentals are done right. Right now, Momentous is offering our listeners up to 35% off your first subscription order with promo code ACAST. Go to livemomentous.com and use promo code ACAST for up to 35% off your first subscription order. That's livemomentous.com, promo code ACAST.
And then it was at some point during these years that you get married, you have 3 children by the age of 26, which terrifies me. I'm dad of 1 at 33. And at that stage, you sort of made the decision to go and work FIFO. I imagine to be able to afford to have 3 kids. But was that the thought process of sort of stepping away from hospitality and into FIFO?
Yeah, definitely. My first child was conceived in Germany. I was traveling as a chef, and my chefing career pretty much got cut short, or my European chefing career got cut short because my girlfriend at the time called me up a couple of weeks after she visited me in Germany and said she was pregnant. So I decided to move back to Australia pretty quickly, and soon found out with 1 child on the way, and then after we had the second one, and then by the time I had, my wife was pregnant at the time with the third, income was not matching what I needed, and it was, I'd always heard about FIFO being a lot more money than, what I was able to get in the metropolitan areas, in the hospitality industry especially. So that's where I decided to hit the FIFO scene.
So like so many, you make that decision sort of purely financial. Did you know about the drinking culture there before you went? Was that something that maybe even attracted you because you go, well, I'm pretty good at drinking and that sounds all right? Or, was it a secret? Was it hush-hush that people go away and get pretty pissed up on these jobs?
I was probably not so aware and didn't really do so much research. I had this sort of vision in my mind that I was flying to this little mine site, which would be a tin shack with a little, twin prop aeroplane on the side of it type thing. I really didn't know what to expect, and I was quite anxious and a bit scared. And I also went in with a plan to be very disciplined. I wanted to go there and make sure that I would save the money that I would earn. I was planning to not to drink, and did my best to do that for a short period of time. It didn't last. But I was quite shocked when I first got there. My expectations of what the mine site would be and how disciplined I thought that it would be was completely the opposite. Back in those days, which is about, I'm going to say 23, 24 years ago, it was the Wild West.
Yeah, okay, so let's get some numbers talked about here. So how many days are you on and how many days are you off?
First arrived, 28 days on, 7 days off.
Oh my word. Okay, and these are, how many hours a day are you working?
10 hours a day at that point. When you normally, in those days, when you're sort of working the longer rosters, the 4 weeks away or 6 weeks away, your time per day would be reduced. Now, I guess they make you work longer and keep you shorter, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And what was the job? What were you actually doing?
So I was firstly employed as the head chef for a mine site on arrival. It was funny. When I arrived halfway into my first shift, they announced to me that my relief that would take over my position for the 7 days I was away was not available, and I was going to have to stay a bit longer. So I ended up staying 32 days straight on my first swing. And my just for context, My youngest son that was born just before I left, he was 8 days old before I left, leaving him for 32 days. It was on my first swing. Yeah, that was, I guess, a real eye-opener. And that's where it started. So I guess, if you do the maths on a 28-day on 7-day off roster or 4-on-1, for the first 2 years of my youngest son's life, and my other children, but especially the relationship with my youngest son, I only saw him for 20 weeks.
Oh, my word. Yeah. I'm holding my head in my hands, Sean. Like, I can't picture that. Because I imagine that there is this drinking culture there. I've often wondered, what is the driving factor for it? Is it the fact people are away from home? Is it the fact that you're working these unusually long hours or this unusual run of days, which is, going to be stressful and grind you down? Or is it as basic as, I just really miss my family and drinking makes me forget that, or somehow helps numb the emotion of that? What was the real genesis of the drinking culture there, in your opinion?
At the time, and it's changed dramatically, but I'll probably give you a snapshot of the picture back then. There wasn't much focus around well-being. The facilities were fairly limited to a degree anyway. And there certainly was this culture of, if you misbehave, there's consequences, but we'll give you everything that you have in the city, and you're treated like an adult and you make your own decision. So alcohol was able to be purchased in unlimited amounts. You could buy a carton of beer to take back to your room. You could drink as much as you could on premise. On closing time, buy a bottle of port, 2 bottles of red wine, or whatever you wanted. And so what I found, trying not to drink when I first started, there was a party every night. Drugs were quite rife on the mine sites as well too, because there was no alcohol testing. So it was random, and when I say random, extremely random. You kind of got told, you kind of got told 3-4 days, if not more, in advance that there may be a test. So everyone took it a bit easy for a while, and then you almost got the green light to say, "Oh, we can hit it again." But yeah, it was very rare, and it was certainly not daily like it is now. So yeah, it was very common to be still drunk at the start of your next shift, because you still got that much alcohol in your system that you're still a bit tipsy, if not worse.
So the only thing I can compare this to that I've experienced is university, where everyone's about the same age, everyone's getting drunk every night, and you're living in a shit house, but who cares because you're out all night. I imagine it's very different on a mine site, because you've got, sure, there's people in their mid-20s there, but you must have people who have been there, who are in their 30s or in their 40s, who have done it for their whole careers. Is there an air of, is it a fun party every night, or is there an air of sadness? Is there, oh, hang on, that guy's an alcoholic, or that woman's relationship's just broken down, or that one's missing their kids? Is there a underbelly of sadness underneath this drinking culture?
Back then, I didn't see it, and it's probably because I wasn't looking for it. But yeah, absolutely. I think there always has been, and still is to a degree, an underbelly of sadness. I think broken relationships, a lot of people at various stages with their relationship with alcohol on mine sites. And I think the balance between trying to, get that in order when you come back to reality, I call it, or back home, and try and fit into that routine. When you're a single person up on mine sites, most things are done for you. You just have to shower and eat, basically, and the rest is done for you. So fitting back into a routine that you're not used to, and it's not normality, and also the alcohol consumption is vastly different. So I think there is a lot of challenges or battle between those two still. But back then, I think, and it's still prevalent now, I think, you mentioned why people drink, and is it culture, is it this, is it that? But it's probably not one thing, it's a whole range. It's isolation, certainly loneliness, lack of connection, but then I think a lack of facilities and proactive things to do outside of work. So, you work pretty hard. The Australian culture is you deserve a cold beer, those sort of things. But on most mine sites, they're getting better now for certain, but back then, a gym and maybe a pool if you're lucky, no classes, no workshops, no self-improvement opportunities, very little to do other than go to the pub. So it's probably what most people did. And I think companies too have got a fair amount of responsibility, because what they do is pour the alcohol and make sure that those facilities are probably the nicest. So people, I guess, are attracted to them, and stick around those areas because they are the nicest, and it's where you get that human connection from outside of work.
Were there any sober people there?
Gee, if there was, I didn't see them. Back in those days, there are plenty now, and I still visit mine sites pretty recently, but in a different job. But back then, very few. I don't think everyone had a drinking disorder. Certainly not saying that, but yeah, I don't think there was many people that didn't drink. It just wasn't that type of place. It was, yeah, most people were drinking a couple of days a week, and and a good part of those were drinking every day of the week, very heavily.
As interesting to me, like you mentioned a second ago, is the 7 days when you come back to the family, because particularly to your youngest kid, you're a stranger that has walked back into the house when there's a whole routine set up and there's a whole system in place, and then for 7-8 days, Daddy's home. What was that like? How did that affect your relationship with your wife, or did it get to the stage? My wife worked on cruise ships for years, and she said she knew things were weird when life on the ship was normal life and life on the mainland was not. I imagine the same with the mines. How did that affect your relationship with your wife and kids?
Well, dramatically, that marriage didn't last. It lasted 10 years. But, looking back, it was, I was a massive challenge. I think I struggled, exactly what I said, to sort of break the routine that I was in for such a long period of time, like a month at a time, and then come back and try and fit into a routine for a week. And what I tried to do is probably make people fit around me rather than me just going, no, well, this routine's set. I'm only here for a week. Don't unbalance it. So all respect to my ex-wife, I think I was the most part of the challenge and trying to unbalance that to suit me rather than fit in with what was there. But I think being away for that 28 days at a time, drinking how I was, and a lot of people still do this, and certainly back then, you come back and your partner probably wants a break from the children and expects you to be there and front and centre, and I was exhausted. Physically and mentally exhausted, and not through the work, because the work, although long days and for a long period, it was more just the alcohol and exhaustion, just drinking hangover, doing that. I drank most days and heavily most days. If I had a day off, it's because I drank so much the day before I was, didn't want to touch a drink for 24 hours. But yeah, I'd sleep for the first 2 days of my R&O when I'd get back, when I guess you should be embracing your family. And then when I started to feel good, I wanted to go out drinking with my mates. So, yeah, it was a pretty ordinary recipe for disaster, to be honest. How
did your mum deal with the fact that you were drinking? You said earlier she'd made you promise please never drink. You then become, a heavy drinker. Did she make comments? Was there a level of guilt or shame that you felt towards that?
To be honest, I lived with that guilt and shame all my life until I stopped drinking, because I made her that promise at an early age and certainly made myself that promise. So there was always that guilt and shame. She mentioned it a couple of times. Like when I got divorced, I moved back home, and that was tough. That was at 32 years of age. It was as quickly as possible because I just needed to settle the affairs and get my money so that I could move out. But she saw my drinking then and, certainly made comment that I should seek help. I was drinking too much and I should stop, because I would sit outside every night and binge drink, basically, to numb the pain of, I guess, a failed marriage and everything else that was going on. But yeah, she's early stage, no, not so much, but certainly she made comment when she saw it, and that guilt carried with me for more for myself, because I saw what it did. And I was always in the back of my mind, like, better. And I always thought that I was better, or there was something better around the corner. But it took a long time to realise and stop.
Well, we mentioned these sort of landmark moments in your life, which was, moving to Australia. I know that your dad's drinking ended up costing him his life, probably at a stage where your relationship with his had broken down. You end up divorced from your first wife, and then your eldest son, I think it was your eldest son, wasn't it, in 2019, lost his life after a long battle with mental health. That is, for anyone, the worst thing that can happen. You were still drinking when he passed away, is that right?
was still drinking very heavily, still binge drinking 2 to 3 days a week quite heavily. But I was at the point where I actually despised alcohol. It was like I couldn't stand it. I hated what it was doing. It was causing me sort of a 3 to 4 day poor mental state. Just that guilt, shame, and everything that comes with and the anxiety after drinking. So I was at that point where I hated it, but I certainly was still drinking a lot. The immediate response to Kurt's death was to escalate my drinking for a short period. As you can imagine, it's. I don't know about anyone else, but that's the worst experience that I've ever had in my life, and I've had some poor ones. But no one ever thinks that's going to happen to them.
I know you've spoken quite openly about Kurt's death effectively being the reason that you ended up sober. I'm not surprised that your drinking went up in the immediate aftermath. I think a lot of people would have the same experience. What was it that eventually went, okay, today's the day, and what tools did you seek out to help you get sober?
Like I said, my drinking escalated for a couple of months at least, probably felt like 6 after Kurt's death. And my partner or wife now at the time just said to me, you really need to seek help. I don't think you can get out of this by yourself. She could see me. It was different. I was grieving and, already probably a high-end binge drinker. My disorder was sort of escalating. I was really on a bender. So she could see I was hurting and needed some help. So through a mate of hers, actually, that was seeing a coach, an addiction coach and a trauma coach, she suggested that I go see that person. So that was the first step. I reluctantly went. I went more to please my wife, but oh my God, it probably saved my life.
And what do you see as sort of the key pillars that have maintained your sobriety since then?
Well, going back to my dad died at about 55 years of age directly because of alcohol. He was found dead in an apartment in Adelaide due to alcohol sort of complications. While my son died ultimately because of poor mental health, he was addicted to alcohol and drugs. So, when you said what was my motivation, yes, my drinking was escalating at the time on my son's death, but I knew in the back of my mind that it was time. Like, I despised alcohol, wanted to do something about it, just didn't know what. And I certainly wasn't going to go to something like AA meeting because that just wasn't for me. I just felt like I wasn't in that zone, or whether I was or wasn't, not in my mind. And that's why I say this coach reluctantly went, but and it was a very different experience. Yeah, I think the first thing that I learned to do was forgive myself and get rid of that shame from, we talked about at an early age where I started drinking when I promised my mum and myself I wouldn't. Sort of first forgave myself, then felt obliged to reach out to a lot of people that I'd broken relationships with, my ex-wife, my older children that were still around, and apologised for some of my behaviour in my younger years and later years even, because, certainly I wasn't at 26 with 3 children and drinking at the state I was. I certainly didn't put my best foot forward and wasn't living my best life. So, all those factors were enough motivation. And I think once I started to see the benefits of some of the coaching and change, I first thought there's no way I could quit drinking. Let's just try moderating, and played around with that for a while. And that certainly, it worked because I stopped drinking as frequent. But when I did drink, I found out that I still couldn't hold the volume back. It was always, for me, if I did drink, it was one speed flat out till I hit the wall. It was easier not to drink than to drink, if that makes sense. It's sort of like I could say no and just go home. But once I started, typically a midnight or more for me.
And what I like about your story is that a lot of people, it appears, can become sober and then sail off into the sunset and stay quiet about it, and they're just sober people. And then Vic and I, or you, Sean, that for some reason isn't enough. And you have now become a sobriety coach yourself, changing the lives in the same way that your coach changed yours. Tell us about the work you do now.
Well, yeah, you're right. I think as part of my own recovery, I got interested in wellness and just to improve my own health through nutrition, movement, mindset, all those different things. So I first started off with an accreditation as a professional health and wellness coach. And then a friend of mine and now colleague in the same industry, Sarah Rusbatch, through work, I did a tour with her, a wellness tour, and arranged with her to come around and tour all around the mine sites that I was running at the time, and put a wellness roadshow on. And I listened to her grey area drinking speech 7 times over 7 weeks. And I thought, if I don't actually do something about this and, stop drinking, because her story was like not exactly the same as mine, but certainly a lot of it. And I just said, I'm a hypocrite. I literally felt like I had to do something. So then I investigated the training of the grey area drinking training and did that myself as well. So I guess initially I used it as part of my recovery, but then I saw the benefits of what it did for me and others. And it just motivated me to share what I then found out. And, I saw what it did to my relationships, which just absolutely, is unbelievable. I still can't believe the difference between my drinking days and sober days, how better my relationship with people in general, work colleagues, but especially my family, like your loved ones, the dear ones in your inner circle, my relationship with them, I couldn't tell you how much better it is because I can't measure it. It's just massive.
Where can we find you? What's your website or your online presence? Yeah, where can our listeners get in touch with you?
So my business is called Revive Sobriety Coaching, and you can check my website out at revivesobrietycoaching.com. All the contact information's on the website. You can get an email address there, etc. I mainly coach locally, or like in Australia, so they don't do any international coaching. I just try and keep it fairly local. And I've tried to really, I don't have a niche market, but a lot of people that I do see that come to me, I think resonate because of my FIFO background. And I'm pretty passionate helping a lot of people in that industry, because although things have changed dramatically in that industry, I think some people still have a legacy of issues that they haven't been able to deal with. And I think pretty passionate about changing those people's lives, because there are so many people. I see when you help someone control their relationship or improve their relationship with alcohol, you're not helping an individual, you're helping literally dozens, if not hundreds of people, because it just magnifies out. It's their immediate family, it's their relationships, it's their work colleagues. It's very hard to put a sort of finger on it, but yeah, use myself as for example. When I sort of improved my own relationship, the amount of relationships that I helped remove stress from was unbelievable.
Yes, I've never thought of it like that. That's a beautiful way of putting it. Well, I'll make sure I put all of your details in this episode's show notes. And I just want to say that I know that part of your job now, I suppose, is sharing this story, but I don't take it for granted how difficult it must be to relive some of these experiences. And just on behalf of me and Vic and anyone who listens to this, huge thank you for sharing it, because I've got no doubt there'll be someone out there listening who maybe has been through some of the similar stuff to you, or might be working away from home as well, who might not see a way out. And I think your story just goes to show that no matter how bad it gets, and it got bad, there is a way out. So I just want to say a huge thank you from us.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And you're so spot on. I think it doesn't matter how dark it is, and it's very hard for people to say, I guess, when they're sort of on the outside, but there is a lot of people sort of, I guess, in bad space, especially with alcohol. I think, there's certain people that have mental health issues regardless of alcohol or not, but I think alcohol just exacerbates so many things and makes it so much more difficult to deal with those type of challenges that you may get in life. But yeah, I think sharing my story not only hopefully motivates people to understand that no matter how bad things get, you can get there and there is help. But yeah, I share my story too, just to really motivate people to reach out and go and get help. I was reluctant, and certainly if my wife hadn't pushed me, I don't think I probably would have done it naturally. But now these days, there's so many resources like your podcast and information I wish was around when I first started my drinking career, or certainly my mining career, because there's so much more education and awareness now. So I think the more people talk about it, hopefully the more people we can help.
God, what a story. Unbelievable. We're so grateful to Sean for coming on the podcast and sharing what is such a personal and inspiring story. We'd also like to say a special thanks to him for the work that he does. He's a long-time listener of this podcast and has been kind enough to pass it on to all his clients as a resource and a tool to help them get sober. So thanks for that, Sean.
I think stories like his are so important to hear on our podcast. Our stories are not too dissimilar to each other's. We were both pissheads, you maybe more seriously than me, but we found a way to get sober and reap the benefits. But Sean has been through some serious stuff, as you just heard. Traumatic events that some people might never recover from. You wouldn't judge anyone who might have developed an addiction after living through what he has had to. And yet he's made his way out the other side and is now inspiring and coaching others to do the same.
It goes to show, no matter how bad things might have gotten for you, you can get better from this. Whether you feel strong enough or not, with the right mindset and support structures in place, you will recover and your life will be much better for it.
I hope that this episode brings with it a couple of lessons for those of you who travel a lot for work. It can serve as a warning of how quickly things can snowball for you personally in the wrong environment, and what effect that can have on your family and relationships back home.
I guess what we're saying is if you can land a high-paying job that gives you a healthy amount of travel, and you can dodge any of the potential banana skins by doing it all sober, you might have just cracked this whole work sobriety thing.
I think a nice place to end, Vic, would be to say we're about to go on a work trip, you and I.
We are.
Should we be honest about the last business trip, I say, in inverted commas? So, yeah, we told our partners we've got to go to Melbourne and our families because we've got a live show in Melbourne. You know, we'll be earning a bit more money in Melbourne. What happened, Vic?
We spent a lot of money. The funny thing was, Haim, I asked John today about, are we going to make any money out of the podcast this week? He said, no, your trip to Melbourne was ridiculously expensive.
I don't think we broke even.
No, I don't think we did. I don't think we did.
It's because we had to get an Airbnb, we had to pay a comedian to warm us up.
We went out 15 times for lunches and dinners and breakfasts every day.
We drank a lot of coffee.
We drank a lot of fizzy.
We did a hot and cold bath.
Yeah, posh fizzy water as well, didn't we?
That's the issue.
We were spending it up a bit, weren't we? We were enjoying being away. I think that would be one issue with fly in, fly out, wouldn't it? It's just, it would probably feel exciting every time you went anywhere. So you feel like you want to flash the cash a bit, especially when the card doesn't have your name on it.
Well, particularly our profit margins are so small.
Yeah.
They're like, look, we can go out for coffee, but that means we don't make money anymore.
Yeah.
That's where we're at with the podcast.
That's why we don't film ourselves, because we're wearing rags, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is not rags to riches, it's rags to rags.
Yeah, just remained at rags.
Yeah. If anyone wants to give us any money, you can.
Oh, feel free.
Yeah,
we
feel
might
free.
Just spend it on clothes.
Yeah, we'll spend it on clothes. I'm really hungry. We're starving, aren't we, Hamish? You could also just pay it into our banks. Where else? Because they could send it to us in the post.
If you message us directly, we'll just give you our bank details.
Yeah.
Just fire it across.
Yeah, $1 million here, $1 million there. That'll sort us right out.
So we have to be better on this business trip.
Yes,
lock
we've got to be better
and don't go out.
Yeah, we're going away. We're going to try and be good, but there's part of us that likes being naughty with money.
Yeah,
because we've got it in the bank occasionally, and we're like, oh, let's just spend it up. Yeah, I'm going to do that move where you flick your shoulders every time I spend any money. You know, I'm doing it now, and nobody can see, but I'm doing like a little dance. Yeah, like that. I'm cashed up, but we're not.
It's difficult to describe. You're doing a dance move because you spent $4 on a coffee. We're like, we're fucked. You spent $4 on a coffee.
Oh, it's a sad state of affairs, really, Hamish. But at least we have a good time, eh?
Yeah.
At least we have a good time, eh?
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Oh, at least we have a good time, eh, Governor?
And that's why we never travel for work. We'll just stay here and rub our pennies together.
Yeah, rub our legs, our upper thighs. Thanks for listening. If you're questioning your relationship with booze, you're struggling to moderate, or your hangovers are causing anxiety, it might be time to reach out for some support.
Yeah, just talk to a mate about how you're feeling, contact a local doctor, find an AA or sobriety group. Vic's got one.
Yeah, just head to www.cuppa.community.
Remember, if you're questioning yourself, it might be time to seek support.
Even though this journey can be awkward, it is definitely worth it. And if you've enjoyed the Sober Awkward podcast, don't forget to review it, rate it, and share it with your mates.
They have to share it with their mates?
Yeah, of course they do. I'm not doing this for nothing, Hamish. Bloody hell.
How do they share it?
I don't know, just write it on the...
Hey friends, it's Nikayla from the podcast Side Hustle Pro. I'm always looking for ways to keep my kids entertained without screens, and the Yoto Mini has been a total lifesaver. My kids are obsessed. Yoto is a screen-free audio player where kids just pop in a card and listen. Hours of stories, music, podcasts, and more, and no screens or ads. With hundreds of options for ages 0 to 12, it's the perfect gift they'll go back to again and again. Check it out at yotoplay.com. YOTOPLAY.com.
Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson star in Die My Love, a ferocious portrait of a woman engulfed by love and madness. Lawrence and Pattinson play a passionate couple who, after moving to an isolated house in the country, find their relationship unraveling following the birth of their first child. Vanity Fair hails Lawrence's performance as astonishing, and Time calls it the kind of performance you go to the movies for. From director Lynn Ramsey, Die My Love is now playing only in theaters, rated R.
You know what's faster than your paycheck? Literally everything. It's time to get your pay up to speed. With Earnin, you can access your pay as you work instead of waiting days and weeks for a paycheck. Get up to $150 a day with a max of $750 between paydays. No interest, no credit checks, and no mandatory fees. Because, hey, it's your money. Download the Earnin app now to get it and join millions of people making any day payday. That's EARNIN. Earnin is not a bank. Access limits are based on your earnings and risk factors. Available in select states. Expedited transfers available for a fee. Terms and restrictions apply. Visit earnin.com for full details.
So, as you probably know, my comedy memoir, 1,000 Wasted Sundays, is officially out. All my magnificent fuck-uppery in one awkward hit. If you'd like to get your hands on a copy, it's now available from all good bookstores.
We always say all good bookstores, don't we?
Yeah.
Are there bad bookstores?
No, it's probably ones with moody sellers.
Oh yeah, really depressed librarian folk.
Yes,
okay,
yeah,
good.
yeah. So there are probably some, but we're only storing it in the good ones.
It's only made it into the goodies.
You can also get it from all good online retailers. The print version and ebook are out now, and the audiobook will be available in March. I've been writing my memoir for 5 years. It will make you laugh, cry and cringe, and hopefully inspire a few people to reconsider their relationship with booze. If you love the podcast, then I think you'll love the book, even if I do say so myself. Hamish has read it. What did you think?
I feel like I know a little bit too much about you now, to be honest, Vic. Look, I really loved it. It was hilarious and surprisingly moving, but I feel like I've seen you naked in a literary sense.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's worrying.
Yeah. From an emotional point of view, seriously, it wobbled my teeny weeny wooden heart, Vic.
Okay.
My teeny little wooden heart.
Well, his teeny little, his wooden heart is broken. Anyway, so if you do manage to get your filthy mitts on a copy, please do me a favour and head to goodreads.com and give me a review. Doing that will help me get it out there to those that need a bit of sober support. So there you have it. My story, unwanted warts and all. Come and get awkward with me.
Not to be too demanding or anything, but seriously, go and buy it now.
Yeah, go and buy it. Go and buy it right now.
Yeah, don't just tell your friends, buy it, and then buy your friends one or two.
Yeah, don't give them a copy, buy it. Yeah.
And you know what? Don't be careful where you store it. If you lose it, you can always buy another 5.
Buy another one.
Yeah.